Idi Amin Dada, the rise and fall of Uganda's military dictator. Early life and military career. Idi Amin Dada was born around 1925 in Koboko, a town in the West Nile region of Uganda, near the border with Sudan. His exact date of birth remains uncertain, but he was of Kakwa ethnic descent. Raised by his mother after his father abandoned the family, Amin had little formal education. He grew up in a tough environment, which shaped his resilience and survival instincts. In the early 1940s, Amin joined the British Colonial Army, the King's African Rifles, KR, as an assistant cook. Due to his physical strength and fearlessness, he quickly advanced through the ranks. He was deployed in Kenya during the Mau Mau uprising in the 1950s, where he earned a reputation for brutality. By 1962, when Uganda gained independence from Britain, Amin had reached the rank of lieutenant and was one of the most senior African officers in the Ugandan army. Path to power. After independence, Uganda's first prime minister and later president, Milton Obote, saw potential in Amin and promoted him to key military positions. In 1966, after Obote abolished the constitutional monarchy and declared himself president, he relied heavily on Amin to suppress opposition. Amin led a brutal crackdown against the Buganda kingdom, which was resisting Obote's centralized control. This solidified his power and demonstrated his willingness to use violence to achieve political goals. However, tensions grew between Amin and Obote. By 1971, as Obote attended a Commonwealth summit in Singapore, Amin seized the opportunity and staged a military coup. The coup was swift and largely bloodless, with Amin declaring himself president and promising to restore democracy and corruption and bring prosperity to Uganda. Many Ugandans initially welcomed him, believing he would be an improvement over Obote's increasingly authoritarian rule. A brutal regime begins. Once in power, Amin quickly consolidated his rule. He promoted himself to Field Marshal and awarded himself numerous titles, including His Excellency, President for Life, Alhaji Field Marshal Dr. Idi Amin Dada, VC, Deso, MC, Conqueror of the British Empire. These grandiose titles reflected his growing megalomania. Amin's rule soon turned into a reign of terror. He ordered the execution of military officers suspected of loyalty to Obote, eliminating potential threats within the army. Over time, he expanded his brutality to political opponents, intellectuals, religious leaders, and even ordinary citizens. The notorious State Research Bureau, SRB, a secret police organization, became infamous for its torture and extrajudicial killings. It is estimated that between 100,000 and 500,000 Ugandans were killed during Amin's 8-year rule. Expulsion of Asians and economic decline. One of Amin's most controversial decisions came in 1972 when he ordered the expulsion of over 60,000 Asians from Uganda. These individuals, primarily of Indian and Pakistani descent, have played a significant role in Uganda's economy as business owners, traders, and professionals. Amin claimed that God had told him to give Uganda's wealth back to indigenous Africans. The mass expulsion had disastrous consequences. Asian businesses, factories, and farms were handed over to Amin's supporters, who lacked the skills to run them effectively. The Ugandan economy, once one of the strongest in East Africa, collapsed due to mismanagement and corruption. Shortages of essential goods, inflation, and a decline in agricultural production worsened the situation. Foreign relations and international isolation. Amin's regime was marked by erratic foreign policies and bizarre behavior on the international stage. He initially maintained close ties with the United Kingdom and Israel, but later severed these relationships. He shifted allegiance to Libya's Muammar Gaddafi, the Soviet Union, and other radical regimes. Amin sought attention through outrageous statements and actions, including offering to mediate between the US and the Soviet Union during the Cold War and sending congratulatory messages to Adolf Hitler posthumously. His erratic nature made him a figure of global mockery and concern. The Entebbe raid and military decline. In 1976, Amin's reputation suffered further damage when Palestinian terrorists hijacked an Air France flight and forced it to land in Entebbe, Uganda. Amin personally welcomed the hijackers, and supported their demands for the release of prisoners held in Israel. However, Israel launched a daring rescue operation, known as Operation Entebbe or Operation Thunderbolt, successfully freeing most of the hostages while killing Ugandan soldiers and destroying military aircraft. This incident humiliated Amin on the international stage and increased opposition to his rule. War with Tanzania and the fall of Amin. By the late 1970s, Amin's paranoia and brutality had alienated even his closest allies. In 1978, he ordered an invasion of Tanzania, hoping to annex part of its territory. However, this proved to be a fatal miscalculation. Tanzania, led by President Julius Nyerere, retaliated by launching a full-scale invasion with the help of Ugandan exiles. In April 1979, Tanzanian forces and Ugandan rebels captured Kampala, forcing Amin to flee into exile. Exile and death. Amin first sought refuge in Libya under Gaddafi's protection, but later settled in Saudi Arabia, where he lived a relatively quiet life. Despite his brutal rule, he never expressed remorse for his actions and continued to believe he had been a great leader. He spent his final years in Jeddah, living off a stipend provided by the Saudi government. In 2003, after years of declining health, Idi Amin died of multiple organ failure in a Saudi hospital. He was buried in Jeddah, far from the country he once ruled with an iron fist. Legacy. Idi Amin's legacy remains one of the most infamous in African history. His rule was marked by mass killings, economic ruin, and international isolation. While some Ugandans remember him for his nationalist rhetoric and his stance against foreign domination, the vast majority view his regime as a dark period of Uganda's history. Uganda has since moved on from Amin's era, but the scars of his rule remain. His downfall serves as a cautionary tale of how absolute power, unchecked by accountability, can lead to destruction and suffering.